Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the transfer window. This is the first live stream of this transfer window for the channel, so lots to go into, a lot to get talking about, so let's get starting. First and foremost, I want to get talking about an article that's gone under the radar. Now look, of course, as we know, Reguilon has left the club today. As we know, Sancho might be going back to Borussia Dortmund, and these are big stories, absolutely they are, and they are the headlines, but I want to look at something a little bit different, and it's very, very interesting. It's an article written by Rob Dawson, and it's basically saying Erik Ten Hag would be very reluctant to give up the transfer control that he has had over Manchester United affairs since he's joined the club, and that he would like this moving forward should he be keeping on as the manager. So I think this is potentially going to cause a bit of issue, because in other very reliable reports, we're also seeing that we're after Dan Ashworth, we're after Paul Mitchell. Are these guys going to come in and have less control than they want? Are they going to give control over to a manager whose selections and signings have baffled and have really struggled to perform throughout their entire tenure at this club? I mean, we only have to look at Anthony, we only have to look at what's happened with Mount, or look at Casemiro, or look at even Lisandro Martinez. Hasn't been a complete success with this injury, of course, as well. So Ten Hag's transfer record has been very poor, really, if we're being honest with ourselves. Very few players, we would say, were good deals. Very few players have been a success at the club during his tenure. So I think these are the kind of issues we're starting to see come to fruition. Now look, should Ten Hag ever really have been given that level of input and say and control over the transfer windows, having complete veto and having complete free rein to pick his own targets in that sense? Probably not. Should he also have been given better players signed into the club? Absolutely he should as well. But I do think this is really interesting and it's important. And look, this has been flagged by Muppeteers as well. They said the only thing they will say on Ten Hag would be very important for him to accept the role presented in order to have a future at the club, which is likely to be diminished and will have more direction from those above him as well. That, for me, is a big one. Look, I'm asking you guys in the poll as well. Should Ten Hag have transfer control? Yes or no? Do you guys think he should lose it? Jarl says Ten Hag should never be allowed to sign another player again. Anthony is a walking disaster, and how not to buy a player. Lucky for us, the club looks to be moving quickly, and Ten Hag power will be reduced. Of course, yeah, look, obviously this is big for Ten Hag, but it's also big for whoever comes in next. And even if Ten Hag was sacked, you have to think these are the rules and these are the steps going forward that we're going to be taking. More people with more expert opinions going in on these transfer dealings. And look, Muppeteers said it as well. Rob Dawson, his article is slid under the radar. It's a point of contention. Ineos will not be bringing people like Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell in to make big transfer decisions to help turn this club around, for them not to run the show if they don't believe current agreements work, and they do not. Again, Muppeteers reiterate Ten Hag is not on the cusp of being sacked, as the overhaul will begin overhead, but for the long haul, change will be accepted for any long-term future by either Erik Ten Hag or whoever comes next. So this is interesting, and I think, look, we're starting to see little movements within the squad. We're starting to see things happening in regards to Manchester United's transfer window as well, and a lot of these are interesting. Today, Sergio Reguilon left. Would Ten Hag have let a first-team player go at this point of the season with this many injuries? I don't think he would have. I think he would have preferred to keep Sergio Reguilon, but obviously the club have took a look at it. Yusuf is asking, is Ten Hag sacked yet? No, he's not sacked yet, but you do start to get the sense that whenever you're seeing the manager not wanting to give over these controls and powers that he's had at the club, with the new ownership coming in, you have to think there's going to be conflict arising somewhere. And look, it could be a lot more easier, it could be a lot simpler for Ten Hag to make that case if his signings were doing good, if his players were performing, or if he was doing well as a manager. He's doing none of these things. He's fighting for survival, so I don't think he's in a position to make demands and a position to say, I need to keep this transfer control, I have to be involved in these decision makings. It's not just going to be the Erik Ten Hag show anymore, or it won't just be a manager show. We will be moving towards an absolute revitalization of that entire side of the sector. We're going to be moving towards a head coach. We're going to be heading towards having a transfer committee, having actual plans and actual people who know what they're doing. Jarl is saying as well, it looks like we're getting a dream team to implement a City Liverpool model when it comes to transfers. This is a good thing. It is. It is. Jeremy says a lot of negativity around Ten Hag, but it's nice to see him bring on Ahmad. Yeah, it is. It is. I think Ahmad Diallo will have landed on his feet. He really will have. And look, I said this earlier in the season for Pellistri. I said with Sancho out and Anthony's form the way it is, it's a good chance for Pellistri. I don't think Pellistri really took his opportunity. I don't think he really stick to claim. I don't think he became the first choice he could have been, but I think Amad Diallo certainly can. I think he's got an opportunity now. Anthony's form has been absolutely shocking as well. Sancho is potentially about to go back to Borussia Dortmund, and we will touch on that in a minute. Let me see as well. Yusuf is saying, I don't want him to be sacked, but give him a chance. I think he's going to be given an opportunity to work at this. First and foremost, I do think this will happen, Yusuf. I think he will be given an opportunity under this new the new regime. And the reason why is I think Ratcliffe and I think the Ineos guys are going to come in, and the first thing they're going to want to do is have a look at what's happening above. And I think that's where they're going to be beginning this whole changes. It's coming with Dan Ashworth. It's coming with Paul Mitchell, Dougie Friedman. It's coming with Jean-Claude Blanc. These are the type of people who are bringing in, and that really is, as Jarl said, it's a really dream. It kind of is a bit of a dream team. You're looking at going from Woodward and Arnold and John Murda and Darren Fletcher to Paul Mitchell, Jean-Claude Blanc, Dan Ashworth, and potentially Dougie Friedman. That is... you couldn't have a bigger gap in quality. You couldn't have a bigger gap in competencies, and these are the type of people who we want to be running the show as well. Just in terms of the poll, 15 votes are on that so far. 20% are saying no, Ten Hag should not lose transfer control, and 80% of you guys think he should be losing transfer control at this time. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm positive that he would still be given the voice. I'm positive he would still be given some kind of say, and I think any head coach will be, but I don't think it's going to be the way it has been, where Ten Hag is picking the players who he's worked with before. Maybe we get more out of the guy if he is just the coach of the team, and he's just picking the team, putting the tactics out there. He's not worrying about what players we're signing or looking at negotiations or looking at calling up players. We're not looking at that sort of stuff. I don't know, but certainly, look, it's big changes. So I guess we'll move on to Sergio Reguilon, guys. So Reguilon, as we know, a player brought in the summer. It's another loan signing. He's left the club. He has left the club today. We always had the option to cancel his contract in this transfer window, and it looks like we have now taken that opportunity as well. I think Reguilon came. I think he tried his best, and we couldn't doubt his passion or his enthusiasm, but ultimately I don't think the quality was ever really there with him, so he will be leaving. David Ornstein is reporting Sergio Reguilon will be rejoining Tottenham Hotspur for Manchester United. So season-long loan included a break clause for left-back to return in January. United have activated that option, and they always had the intention of doing so. The 27-year-old played 13 matches in all for Manchester United this season. Rajat doesn't like Ahmad. I'm on the opposite. I do like Ahmad. I think you've got a player there, very intelligent player, very good in terms of what he does. His decision making is so much better than what we see from Anthony as well, and I think that's the big thing. Look, if you make the argument to me that we play Garnacho on the right hand side, maybe I could, I would listen to that, but I wouldn't be listening to having Anthony on that side at all, guys. I really wouldn't. But I think it's an interesting time, and it's an interesting time if you're Jadon Sancho as well. And I think when we're looking at this, guys, Rajat said he didn't do much. He didn't really do too much. I don't think United had a particularly good performance in Nottingham Forest as well. Jarl says Reguilon has already left. He and Donny left yesterday. Sounds like Sancho's out the door to Dortmund on a loan. Yes, that is the story as well. Sancho going to go to Dortmund, €3 million loan fee. It's not really much of a fee. It's kind of embarrassing. It does feel like the Pogba situation all over again, where we have a player who we brought for a lot of money is now going back to that club for basically nothing, and he could go there and make a big difference to Dortmund for the rest of the campaign. He could go and pick up his form and rediscover what he's about as a player. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think it's pretty unprecedented to have a player pretty much sit from September, so 3-4 months at this point, and then he goes on loan, and then he comes back. And when he comes back, the manager who got rid of him in the first place might not be there anymore. We could have a new manager who might give Sancho another chance. Personally, I don't think they should. I think the apology would still be needed, but I think there's every possibility of this now that Sancho could end up outlasting Erik Ten Hag by going to Dortmund and then coming back in the summer when there might be a change in management, depending on how the season goes. And at the minute, I don't know what I can really see changing with this Ten Hag form, with United's form, and that for me is a big concern as well. And that's why I think it's very difficult for Ten Hag to make demands of Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, where he's looking to keep transfer control, where he's looking to still be the guy picking the transfers, picking the players, saying who we should be buying. I mean, what we got Casemiro, who's probably going to leave at some point this year, you would imagine. You've got Antony signed for £85 million, one of the worst players we've seen in a long time at the club. Mount was the obsession last year, and he's barely featured at all this year. Obviously, injuries have played into it, but it's still not good. You know, we signed Hoyland for 17 million, and we've only got one Premier League goal out of the guy because we can't coach an attacking outfit to actually pass him the ball either. So certainly, look, I don't think Ten Hag's in a position to make big calls. I think for his long-term job security, if he is to be the guy Ineos want to go with, I think he's going to have to accept it. And I don't think there will be compromise on this. And the whole recruitment side of things is something that Ratcliffe has spoke about even before there was a Manchester United takeover race. Even before the club went up for sale, these are things he talked about in private conversations, in public forums. When asked about the club, he's always maintained that the recruitment side has been so poor. We are one of the only clubs in football where there is no correlation. Typically, the more money you spend, the better your club's going to be. That's pretty much how football has gone, because you're going to be able to bring more players in. If you bring more players in, you're going to have either higher quality players or more successful ones just by the law of averages. We have managed to go on the opposite. We've spent so much money on a lot of players to arguably end up worse. Rajad thinks we need a Liverpool model. I think that's what we're heading towards. I think if you're looking at Dan Ashworth coming in, and that's seemingly the talk from Uppeteers, he's going to be heading up the overall sporting project, with Paul Mitchell focusing solely on the recruitment side of things. And I think that gives you a nice balance. You have a guy there who can oversee the project. You have a guy to work specifically on bringing people in and out of the first team, the women's team, and the academy teams. That's all going to be his that's going to be his sphere of influence at the club. And then if Dougie Friedman comes in, then that's more people. I'm expecting a lot of changes to come in. And look, we've been talking about big changes for a long time on this channel. We've been talking about it probably for the best part of a year, maybe longer. And it's always been needed. It is good to see that it's happening now. These are massive upgrades in terms of quality. I mean, to go to actually move from John Murda, Darren Fletcher, Woodward, and Richard Arnold to Blanc, Mitchell, Friedman, and Ashworth. That is as big a jump in quality as it gets. That's the equivalent of going from Tranmere Rovers to Real Madrid in terms of quality. That is where we are jumping from. And that's the kind of stuff that you do need. Now, look, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out around the central striking position at United. And look, we're seeing a lot of talk about a lot of players in that position, as we expected, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of business. I really don't, and I can't see the point in signing a Timo Werner or a Guirassy or players like that, because I really don't think they're going to add too much. Jinma is down there. Speaking about transfers, Mary Earps is set to leave United. Yes, I did see that about Mary Earps as well, set to leave the women's team, of course. I think that's another indication of where the women's team's going as well. Obviously, I think it was Alessia Russo left last year. Obviously, a big player for that team. Mary Earps, again, would be another big player if they go. So, certainly, like, big work does need to be done. And who've I got down below? Arthur down there. Wayne Rooney, Nick's boss, no chance, man. Osman says Ahmad knows what he is doing. Anthony doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree. I think Ahmad Diallo is a brilliant young player. I think there's a big opportunity for him I think if you look at the right wing, Sancho's gone for the next 6 months. Pellistri hasn't took his opportunity. Anthony has not been good enough since he's been signed, so Ahmad's going to have an opportunity here. Um, Obviously, look, Garnacho has done well on the right wing when he's played there, but I think we might end up going with Ahmad for a bit and seeing how that goes. Certainly, I would expect to see him start in the next match. We play Wigan Athletic on Monday, so I think we will see Ahmad and Garnacho probably on the wings, not when maybe Hoyland in the middle, get him some more goals or something. Who have I got down below? Jarl is saying as well, I'm jealous of the business Liverpool did in the summer. They rebuilt their midfield with 4 players and now they're cooking again. Yeah, look, that's what I'm talking about. That's what happens when you have people who know what they're doing. And do I think that McAllister, Szoboszlai, Enzo, and Gravenberch are the best midfielders in the world? No, but it's given that team and that midfield the boost that it needed. Daniel is down there. Bye bye, Reguilon. What a pointless loan deal. Rosat reckons Ahmad doesn't fit Ten Hag style of play. I don't. It's hard to. It's hard. It is hard to know, like, because we really haven't seen the guy at all. Vishal is saying Ten Hag out. Again, look, these are all things that can happen, and I think I want to go back to the main story just because I can see 20 people are now in the chat as well, so it's good to see you guys. But when we're talking about Ten Hag against Sir Jim, it's basically the question on the poll, because Rob Dawson has put this article out, and I think it's really interesting because you always felt that Ten Hag had a lot of power at this club and a lot of control where other managers hadn't. And it's kind of it is interesting because he stepped from Ajax, and Ajax very much had a structure behind him with Van der Sar, with Overmars, and they were his CEO, his directors of football, his technical directors, a lot of input from a lot of different people. I feel like at United he's been very isolated at the time as well. I don't know what's happening in terms of that, but what we can say is he's had a lot of control, and he's had no experience of having that amount of control at a football club. Is that backfiring? Is that why he's been signing players that he knows, that he has worked with before? I don't know, but he needs to get a lot more out of them. And I think Ratcliffe's absolutely right whenever he wants to move sporting control from the manager to a national board, to people who are going to have a longer career at the club, because a manager can change in 2 or 3 seasons. A manager should be replaceable and the team can carry on. We do see this in a lot of top teams. Klopp and Pep, obviously those are the exceptions, but look at Bayern Munich. You got a sporting project there. Their managers changed several times, and they've still maintained a very good squad, a very good level of football as well. Vishal says when winning new coach will make a difference. I don't know, man. I think we're looking at the Birmingham form, and it just didn't exist either. But what we can say definitely is that there are options out there. Do we think they're really good options? Probably not. I don't know if Graham Potter is the type of guy I want to be managing this club. I don't know if Antonio Conte or Hansi Flick are the long-term answers or the right decisions. So I think we're more likely to see the Ineos crowd sticking with Ten Hag at the minute. They'll want to work on the board stuff. They'll want to get their directors of football, their scouts, their CEO, the big shot callers in at the club before they look down at the manager as well, because ultimately I know we want to think of it in terms of Ratcliffe making these big calls, or it's going to be Ratcliffe's decisions. It's not. It's going to be Blanc, it's going to be Ashworth, it's going to be Paul Mitchell, it's going to be that footballing committee who will be making these calls. It will not be Jim Ratcliffe, and I think that's good, and I think that's what we want to move away from. We want to have qualified people running the club, qualified people as the manager, and if the people who are running the club say that the manager isn't the right fit and they think they should go with somebody else, and they can make that call on their own merit, on their own experience, and their own expertise. Jarl says Giggs looks to be being the guy with the second most games played in the league. Milner is going for him today. Going to tie him today if he plays for Brighton. Yeah, I think he is, man, as well. I mean, James Milner obviously been around the block a long time, played for every rival club there is of Manchester United, so I know how that man does get a little bit more hate sometimes. In terms of a poll, 67% said Ten Hag should lose control of transfers. 33% are saying no as well. I don't think he loses. Look, I don't think it's going to be a completely fully detached situation, but I think it's going to have to be if Ten Hag stays as manager, that he will have somewhat of a say. He will be asked his opinion, but ultimately, I think the final say is going to go to the other guys as well. Vishal says Zinedine Zidane could be the new coach. Look, anything's possible. Anything is possible. Do I think Zidane will be the new manager? I don't think so. I think since he's left Real Madrid for the last time, we've had maybe two managers, and obviously the Ralph Rangnick season as well. So there was a long period of time where he could have been the manager, and it never really seemed to happen. I think he's either waiting for PSG or waiting for the France job myself, so I would be surprised at that one. Jinma says Arsenal have already made contact with Liverpool midfielder Curtis Jones ahead of a potential summer transfer. I could see it. I mean, I could see them looking to further invest in those midfield areas. I'll quickly run through some of the other transfer news, because what, for anyone who is new to the channel, what I like to do is run through what I think are the best stories and what I think is most likely to happen. So obviously Reguilon going, that's done. Van de Beek going, that's done. Sancho going to Dortmund, that's looking like it's going to get done, and that in itself is an embarrassment. We spent £75 million on Sancho, and he's going for 3 million. But I think the big story is Ten Hag's transfer control, and these are interesting developments that are coming out as well. I'll quickly run through some of the other stories, and guys, let me know your opinions on these ones. I'll put them into the comments, everyone can see them as well. So Manchester United are apparently in talks with the Cameroon FA about Onana playing in the Tottenham match on the 14th of January. Look, I can't say I'm a fan of this. I know a lot of you guys are not big fans of Andre Onana in the first place. In my opinion, I think there's still a decent goalkeeper there, but I think Bayern's got to play at some point. If Onana's going to be away, you can't just throw him in having not played one match all season. He needs to have minutes, he needs to be fresh, and he needs to be ready. Jinma says, do not see Zidane as a good coach. He won the Champions League 3 times as a coach, but he wouldn't with that team he had. Yeah, I mean, that's also true. You're talking Casemiro, Modric, and Cruz, Ronaldo, Bale, Benzema, Carvajal, Ramos, Varane, Marcelo, and like Keylor Navas. These are incredible. Jinma says, are we trying to get Varane on a lower wage? If so, we are playing a dangerous game. Yes, we are. That is also confirmed. So we are seemingly trying to talk Varane down to a lower wage, and I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting, and the reason why is because we have extended the contract of Victor Lindelof by 1 year. So obviously, as you would expect, Varane is paid a lot more money than Lindelof. Yes, that is pretty much as expected. But I think the interesting thing about this, it could lead me to assume that we might be looking to sell Victor Lindelof, and we might try to keep a hold of Raphael Varane, because Varane's on something like 300,000 a week. I think you've got to talk players down in the first place, and it's no surprise at all to me that we're moving away from these big wages and we're trying to free up as much of that wage bill as possible. So Sancho going, that's a big one, even though we're going to pay some of those wages. Van de Beek going, that's another one. Letting Reguilon go, he might not be of much use for the rest of the season. Now Malacia and Luke Shaw are back. So, these are potential money-saving ways that we can use, and let that carry on over into the summer, because by all accounts we're going to have a very big summer transfer window, a lot of change, and we're planning for that right now as well. So that's very important, and I would expect that. I think we're going to have a massive summer window, and I think it's going to be a really exciting one. Who have we got down below? Jinma says, De Gea going for free will never happen again. United definitely want to make the most money as possible. Yes, I think that they would have the preference of selling the guy as well. I think it's maybe because they want to keep him. If they can lower his wage and he accepts, then they can sell him. We still have that option to trigger the 1 year extension to his contract, and that's something that the club have complete say over. So theoretically, if Varane turned down that deal and turned down a lower wage, they could extend that contract and sell him in the summer. That's not a bad position to be in. I think that's probably what they're doing with Lindelof as well at the minute. But according to Muppeteers, Ineos will be communicating and lining up their plans over the next couple of days and weeks. Sir Jim is directly involved in this. The first actions are likely to be appointments of staff and directors from top down, and this will be discussed as soon as the deal is ratified. These moves will be implemented as well. These will be coming pretty soon, you would imagine. I think this is all going to come with this fit and proper ownership test. At the minute, we're kind of stuck in no man's land, but I think we'll move towards having that kind of overall change at the top, and I think that's be really important as well. Big ups for 15 likes as well on the stream, much appreciated, guys. Who have I got down below? Jarl is saying the Sancho deal, do we still pay some of his wages? If we do not, the 3 million loan fee a month is not a bad move. I think we are still paying his wages as well. Let me double check this for you, man, because I want to get it right. Vishal said need to build up midfielder and defense for United. Yes, absolutely. Defense, midfield, really key areas. You know, we talk about lack of gold in the forward line, and that's true, but I don't think bringing another striker in gets us a lot more goals. I think we need more players to make opportunities, more players who are going to help us play better football, and that's what's going to be making us those big chances. And then if your striker's not scoring, you can look at it as well. David Ornstein says this here, just I think it might have been Jarl asking. It says, it remains to be seen what proportion of a salary Borussia Dortmund are willing to pay for a loan in Sancho. Talks are ongoing in this, but Borussia Dortmund will pay a loan fee for Sancho, with United still playing part of his salary. So, I mean, that's annoying, but it's nothing new. We've seen it all before. Luman's in the comments as well. Good to see you. Jim said exclusive. It's understood representative from the elite project group was apparent in today. There's speculation that purpose might be related to Sancho. Yeah, I think that's an old one. I think that's probably about the loan deal potentially to Borussia Dortmund. I think it's an interesting scenario because, look, as I said, guys, you know, it's a very real possibility if Sancho goes to Dortmund and plays really well, and we continue on the same trajectory and have bad result after bad result with Ten Hag, then Ten Hag might find himself sacked, and Sancho might come back with a new manager coming in who might want to give him another go, might want to give him that second chance. Yeah, I agree with it. Probably not. I mean, I still think he should have apologized. I still think he should have been saying sorry for how he moved on with that and how he dealt with those situations. But I do think it is an interesting one, and I think it's going to be an interesting an interesting possibility to see what happens there as well. Jarl says we're getting around 2 to 2.5 million loan fee a month. I don't think it's a month, man. I think it might just be a flat fee as well. I think maybe it was Christian Folk was talking somewhere about it as well, but it's certainly very, very concrete talks. It's certainly really looking likely that this could happen and this will happen. Let me see. I can't see anything about that there as well, man. I think it might just be a one-off fee, unfortunately. I mean, if it was 2 or 3 million a month, that's maybe not a bad deal. Jinma says, but don't you want to get rid of the player like Sancho to set up an example and show that it's a restart? Absolutely. I mean, that's probably what I would have done as well. I think that's maybe what we should have done. I don't know if it's going to be what we do, because, look, if you are coming into Manchester United and you got Jadon Sancho on the right wing who's suddenly playing really well and has gone to Dortmund and has worked hard, then do you give him another opportunity? Do you let him let bygones be bygones? I'm not sure. Vissal says Ratcliffe can bring Mbappe to the Premier League. I mean, I would be really surprised if Kylian Mbappe played for us at any point. It could be a dream signing, but I don't see it happening either as well, guys. Look, 31 votes on that poll so far. 65% are saying yes, Ten Hag should lose that transfer control. 35% are saying no, he should not be losing full transfer control as well. I just think he's had too many fails and too many bad signings in his time here that he doesn't really have much of a leg to stand on. He can't sit and say that Anthony's been good, or Mount's been a success, or Casemiro's going to be a long-term thing, or it's worked with Sandro Martinez so far, or Højlund's been a big success. You know, there's a lot of problems out there, and certainly Ratcliffe does need to deal with this as well. And I think the guys who's got points coming in, I think they're going to be making the calls. So that's the important thing for me, because what went wrong at Nice at the beginning was Ineos tried to run too much, tried to have too much control, and ultimately it wasn't until they stepped back and said, look, let's give it to people who know what they're doing in management, and that's where the Nice revitalization came from this season. So look, certainly it is interesting. Certainly, I think it's going to be an interesting time. Just to go back over some of the stories, Reguilon going, I think, is a cost-cutting measure, but Malacia is coming back as well, so these are not too big of a concern, really. Interesting, Muppeteers as well had said in October that Borussia Dortmund were willing to do a loan to buy for around £35 million for Sancho as well. I don't know if they're going to put an option in. I think that's going to be the big question. Will there be an option? Will there be an obligation for them to buy? If it's a straight loan, then I think Sancho will come back, obviously. But if it's an obligation or an option to go, they might want to sign him back. You know, Dortmund, they're good in the windows, they're good at the transfers, and this might be something that they'll look at as well. Just another story to go through quickly as well, coming in from iPaper Sport. It's an interesting website, but it's by Pete Hall, and Muppeteers have said this is true as well. We're looking Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell to overhaul the transfer strategy. I'm not surprised. Look, I've been saying this for a long time. This would be a massive jump in quality, a massive jump in what we have running the club, running the transfers. Such a big improvement. Let me see. Jimmy says you not want to get rid of players like Sancho to set an example. I think we should. Vishal said Ratcliffe bring Mbappe. Seen that. Jarl says it's actually true. With the money Ratcliffe put into the club, we look to have 400 million summer budget. But is any player worth paying 850,000 a week for? That's another one as well. I think if we're trying to bring these wages down and get things in a better sense with FFP, then we got to probably stay away from those kind of deals. But what I think we can do, and I think what we should be doing, is looking to sell academy players and looking to sell players who have come through Manchester United's academy, and that's where we're really going to fix those FFP things. Look, you will see Man City sell a lot of players from their academy. They sell Bazunu, they sold Lavia, they sold Trafford, Burnley. Cole Palmer, again, another one. And the reason they do that is because those player sales are worth pure profit. They're worth complete profit in terms of the sales. So if you get £35 million for McTominay, then you can spend another £35 million. It's not like there's going to be debts to settle. It's not that there's going to be money took out of that. So we might see players leaving in this upcoming transfer window. We might see McTominay going, I think we should be selling him. I think Rashford's an interesting one. If there's a big fee for him, do we take it? Maybe we do. I think there's other players to look at as well. Hannibal is going to be having question marks over him as well. Alvaro Fernandez, these are all players we can sell for a decent bit of money and hopefully have a big transfer window. I don't think we're going to spend 400 million, but I do think we're going to spend a lot, and I think it's going to be 200 million pounds minimum probably in this transfer window. And I think if you give that to Mitchell, you give it to Ashworth, the guys who know what they're doing, I think you get a lot more out of that 200 million than what we've got in any other transfer window. I really do. Vishal says Ten Hag can manage the team in 2024 or can be sacked. I think he gets to the end of the season. That's when I think you might see a change in manager. Jinma as well. Mount, Leitch, Casemiro, Shaw, Malacia, they're coming back in mid-January. They are, and that will be a big benefit to us, a big boost for sure. We'll have more midfield options. We'll have more defensive options. I think having Martinez and Luke Shaw back will be really big for us playing out of the back, especially Leitch. Daniel says the only way to clear out the loss, sell McTominay and Bruno and Rashford. If they won't, people will start to take note. Yeah, I think you could be looking at some sales, especially in those areas as well. And Jinma said the problem is no one wants these United players, so hard to get rid of them. It is, and look, that's why we want to take these wages down. That's why we want to make these players more attractive, because nobody wants to pay Scott McTominay £200,000 a week. Nobody wants to pay Anthony Martial £250,000 a week. No one wants to pay Sancho £350,000 a week. And Anthony Dighton is saying Dortmund are only paying 33% of his wages. Another club taking us for a ride. Yeah, look, these are the positions we find ourselves in. We get ourselves in these positions so often. We should never be in the position that a player we signed for £75 million is going for £3 million. And that's just a 6-month loan, with us paying most of his wages after he's been in strike for 4 months. Look, these are the type of positions only Manchester United can get ourselves in. Bath Times in the comment, OMG, Jim versus Ten Hag, who's winning. I mean, man, it's going to be Jim, like. But yeah, look, it's interesting because Ten Hag's not looking to let go of this transfer control He thinks he can input a lot, and he doesn't want to let go of a lot of the control he's had at the club. He's probably had far too much control over the overall policy, over what we've been doing in terms of players coming in, players going out. So these are all big issues, and these are things that is going to have to come to head at some point. Because I don't think that I really don't think that Radcliffe is bringing in Jean-Claude Blanc. I don't think he's bringing in Paul Mitchell, Dan Ashworth, Dougie Friedman, guys like this to tell them that the manager's going to have the ultimate say, that you guys are you're only here for your opinion. That's not what those guys are coming for. Robert says, when will we play good football? When will we play good football while playing boring football? Yeah, look, I think football at the minute's not been good. It's really not. Luton Town have scored more Premier League goals than us. We have one of the worst defenses in the league. We're not scoring. We're conceding goals, and it's just a big problem for us every time we go out onto that pitch, guys. It really, really is. Jeremy says as well, with all the seats running the club, it's shocking how no one understands ROI. Yeah, I mean that for me is another big one. And it's never made sense to me if the Glazers took the approach in the first place that they could save so much money by having the best people in charge of football, which would save so much money in terms of transfers. That could be a massive thing as well. Then the club wouldn't have found itself practically bankrupt. Then they wouldn't have been forced to sell part of the club. But then they never took that initiative. They never had that opinion. They wanted to leave their money and the club money with the same bankers who helped them buy the club in the first place. But that's what it's getting down to as well. Ineos found that last night whenever they went to Nice that they can't take people from other sporting backgrounds and just put them in charge of a football club, and they'll know what a footballer is and they'll know how to play good football. This is very true. So I think they've learned from that. And I think the Glazers should have learned from that a long time ago, but they never did. Jarl says we're paying around 250,000 of Sancho's wages for 6 months. We're getting 1.5 million for the Sancho loan. Man, it's not good. Like it is the type of business only we can do. And I said that it felt somewhat familiar and similar to when Pogba left again, and it's hard to argue that case. We spent so much money. I think if we actually consider the money we spent on Sancho and Antony, you're looking at a combined £160 million, and no competent sporting director and sporting board would have put us in that position in the first place. They really, really, really wouldn't have. So those two players, in a nutshell, kind of symbolize, kind of wrap up and show up everything wrong with this club across the last 10-15 years, and they continue to do so as well. Guys, thank you very much as well for 17 likes. Can we get up to, we'll say 20? Can we get up to 20 likes? It only takes a second to drop a like, and as well, if you guys do want to support that channel, please consider hitting the sub button. Really do appreciate it, guys. Some other things I want to touch on just before we finish up as well. Most of these were related to transfers as well. Jarl says it's a very good deal actually for Dortmund. Yeah, it's a very good deal for Dortmund. It really, really, really is. I think it's interesting. Radcliffe and Brailsford were at Old Trafford earlier today. It looks like it's just a photo opportunity. But I think I just want to touch really quickly again on Mitchell, on Ashworth. I know this isn't the most exciting stuff. I know it's not signing Kylian Mbappe. I know it's not getting Haaland, or I know it's not going out there and signing the best players in the world. But these are the big changes that we do need, and these are technical changes that are going to make such a difference to this club. Going from Woodward and Arnold and John Murda and Darren Fletcher to Blanc, Mitchell, Friedman and Ashworth, that's the equivalent of going from Leyton Orient to Real Madrid. It's the equivalent of making the jump from the bottom of the footballing period to the football pyramid to the very top. These are the big changes. And without these changes, I know they're not most exciting, but we don't get any real meaningful change until we make these ones. We really don't. Robert says they should have jailed the guy who signed Sancho and Antony. They probably should have, man. They really should have. But nobody's ever going to take credibility for that as well. I think it's so annoying as well, because we've seen those articles. John Murda could have signed Antony firstly under Ollie for about 20 million. Then we could have signed him at the start of the Ten Hag era for about 35. But we waited until the very end of that window. We spent 85 million on Antony, and we spent 70 million on Casemiro. So There was no approach there. That was just panic. That was just jumping into things and hoping the best. Vishal says guessing transfers: Dumfries, Mbappe, Kimmich, Isak, Osimhen, and Camavinga. I mean, look, all those players maybe could have been signed by us at some point. Camavinga, always one that stands out to me. Like we should have brought him in. I do think we'll see a lot of signings, and I think we're gonna have a really big summer. And I'm really looking forward to carrying it and looking at everything every single day on the channel here as well, just like we did last year, going daily on the transfer stuff. So it is exciting. It's gonna be a big alteration. Jarl says, the good thing is with this stream team, we can stop calling this an Ollie player, this a Mourinho player, this a Ten Hag player, soon there'll be a club player. Yeah, that's what I've been looking for a long time. A competent sporting club would not have 5 players signed to play one style of football, another 5 players signed to play another one, and then another 6 players to play a certain way. You wouldn't have took Barcelona's team that won the Champions League, the 08-09 Barcelona team. You wouldn't have took that team and started to sign Ricardo Fuller, Rory Delap, Glenn Whelan, and Peter Crouch from Stoke City. But that's the sort of stuff we would have done, and we did do that for a while as well. You know, we went from winning Champions Leagues, 3 winning Premier Leagues, to signing Michael Owen and Gabriel Obertan and Antonio Valencia as one transfer window. These are the type of things we want to avoid. These are the things we're going to hopefully be missing out on going forward. And I really, really do hope that we're going to see some serious change at this club. And I do think it's a time for it. I think we've been looking for this change for a hell of a long time. And thankfully, it looks to be here. Do I think it's perfect? Absolutely not. I will always say that. I don't think it's perfect. And I always wanted a full seal. I want the full seal the entire time through this takeover. But if this is the takeover we get, then it has to go well. Because there's not going to be another one. It has to work well. And hopefully it will do. And I think these are the type of people to bring in as well. Look, guys, any questions, any more thoughts, make sure to drop them in there as well. Pretty much through everything we want to go through on tonight's show as well. Can't see too much happening in this West Ham versus Brighton match so far. We'll have a quick score check as well if you guys do want that as well. 42 votes on that poll as well. 69% said they would take away Ten Hag's transfer control. 31% said they would not take away his transfer control. I think he'll have input. I think no matter who manager is, they will have an input on it because their opinion will matter. But ultimately, it will be club signings. Ultimately, it will be everybody signed with a particular direction and a particular plan. And if it doesn't work, then we'll move on to another manager who can get more out of that group of players. That's what I think we're going to be doing. What have I got down below? I can see a comment coming in. It looks an interesting one. From Cabu, we don't need all those big names. We have signed the big names like Di Maria, etc., and misused them. We need proper football management and attitude. Next, our pundits and the press must pipe down as well. Yes, I would absolutely agree. Look, the press coverage in this club is ridiculous. But I do agree with you as well. I do. I think stay away from the big name players. We can't bring these big name players in, and the reason why I say that, and it's not because we're Manchester United, and it's not because we shouldn't be looking at the best players, because you would like to think we are, but it's going to be a rebuild, and it's going to take a while for us to be successful. There's no point in us bringing players in at 27 or 28 years old, who by the time we're ready to compete for stuff might be in their early 30s and are declining already. We can't go back to having players like Casemiro signed, like Varane signed, as good as they are, and as good as they have been for us at times. These are not long-term options, and these are not the guys who are going to be here in the long way. Luke Chapman says, Happy New Year 2024. Thank you very much, Luke. I think it was a good win for Northampton yesterday against Cheltenham. I think I saw that. Vishal says, Antonio Conte could be in the next hope for United to have second or third place in the Premier League. I mean, look, he's one of those managers available. Do I think he's my choice? Is he what I want to say? Probably not. I don't think he's the right guy for me. But if the club decide he is, then I guess we'll see what happens in that regards as well. Look, guys, if you could please drop a like on the video. We're up to 20 as well. If we can get some more likes and subs on the video as well, we really appreciate it, because it's quite it happens sometimes, and like a Tuesday or Wednesday, things do go a little bit quieter as well. Cabu says correct. I'm assuming that's with the older players. Yeah, look, I think you got to go young. I think it's time to do that, and it's time to build a younger, more hungry, fitter team that's only going to get better, as opposed to bringing in people who might start to tail off. Look, you bring a Casemiro in, he would. I think the good example is Casemiro and maybe Tchouaméni. I think with Casemiro, you had a player at a higher level when you bought him than Tchouaméni. But Tchouaméni's gone up, Casemiro's gone down. It's the same with Camavinga. It could be the same if we went out and signed ourselves. I don't even know. It could be something similar, like if we went and we bought an Edin Dzeko or a Mario Icardi who are scoring goals for fun in the Turkish league, or we went to Spain and we went and got we went and got ourselves like Frankie de Jong or I don't even know, Lewandowski. I think Lewandowski's a better shout. And these players are only going to go down. Maybe Harry Kane as well. You got to start looking younger, because these players are not going to be attracted to coming into a club that might be good in about 2 or 3 years' time. Bath Time says, Rooney, give Rooney to the end of the season. We might give a Giggsy at the end of the season as well, man. Jarl says, do you want us to fight for relegation, Bath Time? And Vishal says, United players need progress and good transfers. Yeah, look, we do. We got to have more hits and misses. We got to have more success than failures. And I think the way you do that is by bringing people in who know what they're doing, who know what they want to do, and have a long-term plan and know what they're at. That's what we got to be doing. I think scattergun approach, throwing money at it, it's just not going to work. By all means, if you can give Paul Mitchell, Dan Ashworth, or Dougie Friedman £250 million in a summer, go and do it. But I would sooner give. I think you'd probably get more if you give Paul Mitchell £50 million. You'd probably get more than if you give John Murda £1 billion. That's my prediction there. 43 votes in that poll as well on the transfer control. 70% are saying yes, he should lose transfer control. 30% are saying no as well. Look, guys, thank you very much for joining in tonight as well. If you guys could please consider hitting a like as well, and please consider subbing to the channel. Really helps the channel grow, and it really does help out a lot. Look, guys, I think we're going to leave the stream here, but we will be back on tomorrow as well, same time, 7 p.m. as well. And then on Thursday night, I will be on the United Agenda as well. I think that's with Rebel. So make sure to check that out on the United Agenda. I think it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, so 8 p.m. for that there one. So check it out, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night, and I'll see everybody tomorrow as well.